Hey, this is Aaron,
And this is Kristen.
and this is Drive Mode Show.
Wahoo!
So, what do you want to talk about today?
Let's talk about manual transmissions, the enthusiast's favorite topic.
Yes, save the manuals.
Save the manuals. Okay, so first, I have a confession.
Hmm.
I have never had a manual transmission car full time.
Really?
The first time I really learned, okay, so my dad tried to teach me, bless his heart, tried to teach me how to drive a manual on a 1981 Chevy Citation. That was terrible.
Yes.
So the next time I drove a manual, I was in my 30s at the, what do you call that? The Kyle Petty, not Kyle Petty, Richard Petty driving experience in a Winston Cup car. That was the next time that I actually drove a manual. But I eventually learned, and now I can see the fun in it.
Yeah. So, I have the opposite experience. I grew up driving them. Our farm truck, our tractor, everything I drove was a manual. I took my driver's test in a manual transmission. My first car was a manual transmission Toyota Corolla. Um, I I drove, I think my first two cars were both manuals. So that Corolla and the Ford that I had, and then I had a International Travelall. That was the first automatic transmission I ever bought.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, and then the Ford Ranger that replaced it was also a automatic. So yeah, I've driven manuals forever, and I drove a big truck with the first one had 18 gears and the second one had 10. So all of those.
So is it
So
really like, if you have 18 gears, is it really like, you're like all the
yeah,
way up to 18?
well it's a diesel, right? So you're trying to stay inside of the sweet spot for RPM, and that's only that's only about 1500 RPM of area. So you're just listening to the engine and shifting as you go. So you don't always start out in the lowest gear. So you're not always starting in first gear. Most of the time, you're probably starting in second or third. And then if you have nothing, so if you're just bobtailing or whatever, you can actually start in the high gears um, instead. You have to manage your throttle to make that happen, but you can do it.
What's bobtailing?
That's when you don't have a trailer, so it's just the
Oh,
tractor.
I
Um,
learned something
yeah. So yeah, it's and you get really quick with so with a 10 speed, you'll only have one splitter. So you have a high and a low, and it's the splitter in the front. And then with an 18, you have two. So you have that splitter for high and low, but you also have a side splitter for so you're in first gear, you side split, and then it goes to second gear, and then you shift in third gear, fourth gear, and so on. Um, so you get really used to it, and after a while, you don't use the clutch at all. So
That's fascinating. Most
yeah,
people will never experience that. So that's really interesting.
yeah, it was a job. I had to have some sort of independent job because I'm not good in offices with other people. Uh,
You don't play well with other people?
no, I start telling
No.
whoever owns the company what they're doing wrong, uh, and then with it's the red hair. With truck driving, it's a paycheck, but it's a really independent job. So I liked that. Um, but anyway, manual transmissions, they're pretty rare now. It's hard to find them. There aren't a lot of them out there.
There
Um,
aren't a lot, but I've had a couple
yeah,
recently, and I really appreciate how easy they are because, based on my history, I'm not an expert. It doesn't, I have to think through it a lot more than you might because you drove one full time, right? So I'm thinking through it. But the Integra, the Acura Integra that I had recently, it requires almost no thought. And I do like it's a lot like the Civic Type R. Actually, I had a Type R Integra, so it was like
okay.
extra special. But it tells you what gear you're in. So because the uh the gears are very close together,
Mhm.
and so it tells you exactly what gear you're on, so you're not going to mess it up.
Hmm. I liked the Integra. I didn't have an R though, I don't think. Maybe I did and just didn't notice, but I don't think I did. I think I would have noticed that. Um, but I like, so one of my favorite things with a manual in a sports manual is I want a short throw. So I want to be able to, I don't want to have to move the lever much.
Right.
I want it quick. And Honda Acura is really good at that, and Subaru is really good at that. To where you're just kind of shifting with your, for me, it's just with my wrist. I just have to move my wrist to move the lever.
We have
Um,
big hands.
that's true. I do have, but I like that in a sports, whereas in a not sports car. So, good example would be like Volkswagen Jetta. That's an everyday car. It's not really a sports car. And there's a huge difference when you get in the automatic transmission for that car. It's an A to B car, nothing interesting or special about it. It's just a decent car. But when you get the 6 speed and you have to shift the gears, it becomes a fun car um, without losing the practicality. But it has a longer throw. You have to move your arm to shift. But in that car, that's fine because it's not a go fast car. It's just fun. It's more engaging because you're shifting the gears. So,
Yeah, I thought the Integra was super engaging, and I also loved the Civic SI for some of the same reasons. I mean, the Acura is more plush inside.
mhm.
I also like, but both of them are really fun.
Yeah,
And the other car I had recently that's a manual was a Mustang GT. That is a blast to drive because it's such a cool car. And my son, who's not impressed with anything but Rolls Royce, even he was like, "This is a pretty cool car."
yeah, I really liked that car. And I have a couple of reasons for really liking it. One, it's the only V8 muscle car you can get that's affordable and has a manual transmission. It's just a, I mean, it's not super special, but it's pretty special, and it's a lot of fun um, to drive it, especially with that stick. And it's not too much work to drive it with a stick. So you get into powerful vehicles, and sometimes you get into a powerful vehicle, and sometimes the shifting feels like work because you're having to time it exactly right. You're having to watch your RPM and decide. And in this car, you can or can't do that. It's up to you. Like you can just drive it normally, just down the road, no big deal. Or you can be like and really hit it. And either way, it's a nice car to drive and a lot of fun.
That was a really good reenactment.
Yeah.
I mean, what else is out there? The Cadillac CT4, CT5V Black Wings.
Yeah.
What else?
Um, what else? I don't think this year I haven't driven very much that has a manual. I think I've only driven those two. I don't remember, or three, because there was the Volkswagen. So I don't think there's been anything beyond that. Um, but in recent years, I've driven, say, the Slingshot with the manual transmission. That's a lot of fun. I had driven the automatic the first couple times I drove one, and I was a little worried that the manual was going to make me feel unsafe because in that kind of vehicle, you feel like you don't want to let go of the wheel for any reason. Um, but honestly, it was great. So all my fears were unfounded. It was perfectly fine. I road tripped in that vehicle. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, I drove it all the way down to Denver. So I put a couple hundred miles of road trip on it. And with the manual transmission, it was perfectly fine. Um, I didn't take the freeway because semi trucks and tiny,
Yeah.
tiny little thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great for that. And then most there really aren't very many companies still making a manual anymore. You can get it in the Mazda Miata. Uh,
Yeah, of course.
yeah, because Miata, right? Um, and I don't know of any, I can't think offhand of any others. Can you?
Not off the top of my head. And I want my teenager to learn how to drive it.
Hmm.
I think it's important for him to know how. And because he's like, why is this so complicated? I'm like, it's just it helps you get to know the car,
Mhm.
you understand the machinery better.
It helps you to pay attention.
Uh,
Um, that for me is the biggest thing. I feel that people who drive manuals and know how, they just are a little more attentive. Because you do have to pay a little bit more attention to your driving. That's part of the engagement of a manual transmission. Learning to skip first to third and those sorts of things, and knowing, just being able to know intuitively, I know I'm in third gear, I know I'm in fifth gear, just knowing, without having to check, which comes with time. And you kind of have to relearn that for every single vehicle you're in, because not every vehicle makes the same sound or has the same foot feel or whatever that tells you you're in that gear. And the throw might be a little different, so when you reach over, it's a little bit different. But I think it's very important for engagement. And then just hand-eye coordination.
yeah, I think the next thing I want to do is take a stunt school where I can learn how to drive a manual and do like slides and like
Yeah,
they do in the movies,
yeah.
just to know. I mean, why not?
And do cool stuff. Like I just saw the Guinness World Record for the guy that changing the tire on a spinning car. So it's a British guy, stuntman. He took a car and it's spinning like this on one. So it has one wheel as the fulcrum, and it's spinning like this, and then he changes that tire out.
What?
Yeah, he has to jump off the car, run over and get the tools, jump back on the car, take the lug nuts off, back and put a jack under it, and now it's spinning on the jack. And then yeah, it was 4 minutes of woohoo.
That's making me feel a little queasy just thinking about it. That's
So,
wild. Huh?
but I have always wanted to do two things that are on a bucket list, and one of them is a stunt driving school, like you're talking about. Um, and when I think of that, I think in terms of a combination of like the Quantico school the FBI does for basically emergency driving. Secret Service has a similar school, and the A team. So hitting ramps and flipping cars and smashing them.
Demolition Derby style.
Exactly. And then the other one I've always wanted to do is monster truck school.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun. Is there such a thing? There
There
got to
are,
be, right?
yes, they're not cheap,
Okay.
but
I
they're
want
out
to
there.
monster truck schools. If you're paying attention, we totally want to cover that. That'd be cool.
That would be awesome.
I can just imagine what the people in my community would think when
I
I
think
tell
it's
them
one of
I'm going
the,
to monster truck driving
yeah,
school.
I think it's one of the few things that I can think of to go do that would top driving tanks. And when Tim and I went and did that in Minnesota, I would
That's right.
really love to do that.
That's right.
Monster trucks.
I'd like to do
I
that
want
too.
I want to learn how to do the little pirouettes and stuff, like how they pop onto their nose and bounce and jump up like this and bounce and stuff just on two tires. And yeah.
No idea. Okay, now that we've gone way off topic, I'm going to
Yes.
circle it back. I mean, not that that wasn't a valid discussion. But let's circle it back to the manuals for 1 second, and I'm going to ask you, which manual would you like to
Prepared.
add to your driveway?
Second coffee.
Oh,
Okay, what was the question? I was
this question is, if you could have a manual, if you could choose one for your driveway, what would it be?
um honestly, that's not a terribly hard one to pick. Um WRX STI. I think
Okay,
Subi. Because I love those things and I love rally. My only problem with the car is that I'm old, and those cars have very, very stiff suspension. So I will need the heated seat option to keep my back loose, and I will need one of those inversion machines so that when I get out of the car, I can go get in it and flip upside down and fix all the stuff I just did to my back.
there's a marketing idea, Subaru. Every STI comes with an inversion board.
Pops out of the trunk, sets up right there in the driveway. You don't even have to.
Hey, I think you might be onto something.
Comes with a coin catcher, so all the stuff falls out of your pocket, goes into the little pouch.
I should donate it to charity in that case. Like
Yeah,
a wish.
see, it could automatically, the Subaru could automatically have the coin catcher is a USPS box, and you put it on and send it, and it goes straight to the nearest animal charity. I mean, the nearest dog pound or whatever, and take care of it. 'Cause that's a
That's not
Subaru for
bad.
dogs.
I like it. I would say of the manuals that I've driven this year, that little red Mustang I had was an absolute blast. Like I really didn't want to give it up. So I might have to see about getting one of those at some point.
So, I I don't think I think the Corvette still has a manual. Um, but I don't think it's in any of the really good packages. I think it's in the basic package. But I might be wrong. I'd
I
have to
think
look. Does the C8 have one or not?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
Because I
You
remember
can
people
Google
telling
it really
me.
fast.
Yeah, you Google that, and I'm going to talk about how much I love the Corvette. Since my dad's not going to see this till after Christmas. Ooh, I can't tell you what I got him for Christmas yet now.
Okay.
My dad watches all our shows. Hi, Dad.
To answer the Corvette question, no. There is no manual with the Corvette.
Wah, wah.
Um, okay, so I can't think of another sports car that has one.
The Cadillacs, the Ford Mustangs,
Because
Subarus,
I don't
Miata.
think even Porsche has them anymore. I think they've all gone over to double clutches.
Wow.
Yeah.
A moment of silence, please. Okay. So anyway, I've learned to love the manual,
Yeah.
and I never thought that I would, but I really feel like I should have one full time because then I'd probably love it even more.
I wish that more car makers would think about them. Not because, I mean, there are a very small segment of people looking for that. But for a lot of vehicles, adding a manual transmission takes it from ho hum to fun. And that's, you don't need to like pep up the engine or boost up this or whatever. You don't have to go nuts with costly sporty stuff. You just throw a manual in it and suddenly it's just a more fun car. I said funner.
It's a funner. Well,
Funner.
one person who's a real advocate for manual transmissions is Sheldon Brown for Toyota, and
Yeah,
he made sure the new Tacoma has a manual option. So the enthusiasts out there are making it happen.
still there.
Still there.
Yeah,
That's all I got for today. Manual transmissions. Let us know how you feel about it in the comments, and don't
yeah.
forget to subscribe.
And we probably should let you know that all of these episodes are now also in YouTube's podcast category. So if you just want to stream something to listen to, these are all set up for that. So
Yeah, go there. Check it out.
we
Hear
aim
the
to be
dulcet tones of our voices.
the dulcet tone of our voices. That's the best Barry White I can do.
Not bad. Not bad. Anyway,
All right.
thanks for
This is
coming. Thanks for
Aaron,
watching. And this is Kristin.
and this is Drive Mojo. We
See
talk
ya.
over each other a lot.